So how do you cope with stress? Well, I've got 3 tips to help you from my own experience and working with clients that can help you when you're in a highly stressful situation or when you're dealing with more kind of chronic stress, things that come up in your day-to-day life and you find you have that kind of general underlying feeling of stress. So first one is disassociation. Now, disassociation is something that we often talk about in a negative form because we talk about things like people using alcohol or drugs or TV to disassociate and not be present and not be aware of what's going on in their life and just kind of end up going through life like a zombie, which isn't good because then we're not present, we're not really living. Okay. However, when you are in a really highly stressful situation or something that could be traumatic, disassociation is what our brain naturally will do to help us not have to deal with that. So if you find people that have been through trauma and have things like PTSD or have had traumatic childhood experiences, a lot of people will have experienced disassociation in those times, just because that's how it's the only way their brain knew how to cope and keep them safe. So it's not always a good thing, but we can actually use it in a positive way if we're consciously using it. So, for example, I was recently in hospital having a procedure done and the nurses were asking me, what are you doing? I told them I was a mindset coach. They're asking, well, what are you doing now to help you? And I kind of just went, deep breathing, try not to overthink it, which was true. But actually what I realized as I thought about it a bit more was I was consciously disassociating. So what I mean by that is I was deliberately taking myself away from where I was. I didn't want to focus on any discomfort, pain, fear of the procedure that was about to happen. So I consciously decided that I was going to take myself somewhere else. So there's a couple of different ways of doing this. You can disassociate in terms of kind of a visualization, and you can just imagine that you're off somewhere in a lovely, nice, warm beach, relaxing, something like that I do during kind of a guided meditation. That's one way of doing it. But the way that I tend to do it if I'm in a very challenging situation and I need to just kind of help myself out quickly, and this could be, for example, if someone is very angry or you're having a lot of emotion rise up in the middle of a meeting or a difficult conversation and you want to be able to get your point across, but you're finding that emotion is getting in the way. So the way that I do it is, first of all, take a nice deep breath and just imagine floating back away from the situation. So I'm physically here, but I'm not going to be here. I'm moving back away and I'm moving far enough away so that I can't feel that emotion anymore. So for me, sometimes that can work as literally just imagine myself floating away and I'm floating back and back and back. So I'm further and further away until that doesn't feel as present. Or the other way of doing it is to imagine yourself actually moving. So you're kind of out of the picture and you're looking at yourself in the picture. So almost like you're watching your life play out on a movie. And you're the one kind of sitting in the cinema watching it happen. And you can even do that a couple of times. You could imagine yourself watching somebody else, watching yourself, watching the movie that you're in. So you're kind of twice removed from the situation. Or you can imagine yourself kind of floating up high and you're like a bird looking down on it. So there's different ways of doing it. But the idea is that you're not here experiencing it through your own eyes, feeling it. You're able to kind of distance yourself from what's happening. So that's a way that disassociation can be used consciously to actually help dissipate some of that feeling, which is really useful if you're in a stressful moment, if you're, like I said, in a challenging conversation and the emotion is getting a bit much, if you're somewhere where you're experiencing something that's quite maybe a bit scary, like a hospital situation that's uncomfortable, dentist if you don't like it, or if you're, having some kind of like anxiety around something. So that can be quite a useful way to just distance yourself from the physical feeling. Then what's useful to do is step number 2, which is to really associate. So associating really into where you're at, which means being really, really conscious of the present. So noticing, feeling on the feet on the floor, the chair that you're sitting in, noticing how your skin feels, how your clothes feel against your skin, noticing the quality of the air around you. Is it warm? Is it cool? Can you smell anything? Is there any taste in your mouth? What can you hear? What can you see around you that you maybe don't normally notice? Colours, textures. That starts to bring your awareness into where you're really at rather than being in that emotional spiral, because anxiety, fear tends to be often is, well, fear can be future or past, but often when we're really stressed about something, it's either we're worrying about what's happened before, and we're ruminating over what we could have done differently or what happened or what someone said, or anxiety often is future based, so we're thinking about what's going to happen next, what might happen, all the possibilities. Whichever one you're dealing with, you're not currently present, right? You're not dealing with what's happening right now. So focusing on actually, where am I? What am I feeling? What am I hearing, seeing, sensing? Helps us to ground ourselves and to be present and focus on where we're actually at and what's actually happening, rather than what's going on in our brain about what might happen or what might have happened and what could happen differently and all of that stuff, which is what caused a lot of stress and anxiety. So really coming back to that. However, sometimes I find if it's a very, like I say, quite an acute moment of stress or anxiety, then I'm not able to go there yet. Sometimes I need to dissociate first. So it depends on where you're at and exactly what you're dealing with. But association is really useful to, like I say, to ground yourself, to notice where you're at, and to just focus on where you're at right now. Are you in any real danger right in this moment? Are you currently safe and well? Are you breathing? Are you able to, take one next step rather than the 300 ahead of you that you're trying to worry about? Are you able to just do one thing forward? Are you able to do one thing that's going to help you in this moment? So associate. And then sometimes what I do to help myself is to give myself some positive affirmation. So I may say things like, you're safe. You're okay. You've got everything you need right now. You're loved. You're healthy, whatever it is, depending on the situation that I need to hear, just to remind myself, actually, it's okay. And I might say that out loud if I'm on my own. I might say it in my head if I'm around other people. But just to ground myself and give myself that little bit of extra sense of security that actually, do you know what, right in this moment, things are actually okay. And then, so the last one, step number 3, is about changing your state. So, physically changing your state is a really good way of doing it. So we want to think about moving. Okay, so getting up out of your chair if you're at your office, physically doing something. If you're feeling anxious or stressed, sometimes doing something physically quite exertive is quite useful. So dancing, jumping, running, something that's going to take away some of that kind of adrenaline feeling that you can build up in the body. Music is great. Put on some good music that you like, dance around to it. Singing is amazing because it forces you to control your breathing. So if I'm feeling stressed or anxious, sometimes put on a good ballad that I like to sing to and just have a good old sing song. Yeah, do it in the shower if you need to. Wherever works for you, but just, crank up the music and sing along to it. And by singing, you're forced to take long breaths. You're forced to hold the breath as you blow out, as you breathe out. So you have to control it. Whereas otherwise it's very easy to get into that quite short, shallow breaths. And then if we aren't able to control that, that's when we see people going more into kind of panic attack level. So really being able to just breathe and sing something, and I'm not going to sing because that wouldn't be fair on your eardrums, but that's a really good way of doing it if you like to sing. If not, hum, whistle, talk, anything that kind of forces you to control your breathing without consciously thinking about it can be quite good. So change your state, get physical, move, go do the washing up, go make a cup of coffee, something that is going to change how you physically are right now. And in doing that, it helps us to change how we're feeling. It shifts our focus from worrying about this, how I'm feeling, this is how I'm feeling, this is what's going on, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm stressed, I'm anxious, whatever it is, to actually, okay, I'm going to go and put the kettle on. I'm going to do this. Oh, this song. I like this song. And then it just helps to shift us to a different feeling physically and then mentally, emotionally at the same time. So I hope those tips have been useful. Just to recap, number 1, disassociation. Take yourself back away from it. Remove yourself from that intense feeling. Number 2, associate into where you're at right now. Really focus on what you're feeling physically, what your senses taking in. What can you see, hear, taste, smell, touch? And then focus on physically changing your state. Change how you're feeling, move your body, put some music on, sing, hum, do something to physically change how you're feeling. Do some really deep belly breaths. Just take some slow breaths, stand really still. That's the opposite thing. If you're someone who's kind of anxiously moving around, it might be that you just want to stop And breathe. And just really be still for a few moments. And that can be so powerful. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. Box breathing, really simple, really effective. If you're doing this with kids, you can do the star breathing. So trace the hands. So you start your breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And you just keep doing that as you move your way around the hand. It's fantastic. I've done it with kind of preschool reception age children all the way through, and it works really well. And it's great for teachers as well and support staff. So there's loads of things that you can do to help yourself in that situation. But those 3 things, if you remember them, that will help to move you from being in that kind of stressed state to being in a more resourceful state where you're able to see more clearly. Because when we're stressed, we tend to look like this, we get tunnel vision, and we just need to open up and see things a little bit more clearly. I hope that's been useful for you. As always, I do offer a free coaching call, discovery call. If you want to have a deeper chat with me, if you want to talk about this or anything else, you're very welcome. Please book a chat. I will drop the link below the video so that you can book that as well. And I hope to see you soon.